this video we're going to show a tool that we have within TIPS that comes quite in handy. When we have designed this software, we designed it so that when you're operating on a well and getting ready to create synthetics and we operate off a single LAS file. Now many times your LAS data is in multiple files. Sometimes it's different depths with some overlap. Sometimes it's different parameters in different files. So we often get the question of how do we use that? Can we just add more files in? But we really want the concept of a primary file that's going to contain the bulk of the information and guide things such as the depth increment and inclinometry, all those type of things. So what we do is, I've got an example shown for you. This is just a single well. If we go to add LAS data, we say add LAS file, we get a pop-up that says the TIPS well log modeler can only load one LAS file per well. Well, that doesn't really solve our problem. But we do have a tool on here, and we generally like to operate this tool where it says merge LAS files without a project loaded. You don't have to, but it's just a little bit cleaner. So I'm going to hit new file, file new, or hit the new icon. Okay, then I'm going to go to tool, merge LAS files. And I'm going to go to an example where I have two files with a whole bunch of different parameters. Some of them are better in one file than the other. So this menu pops up to merge LAS files. We can merge as many files as we like. So the one thing we need to do is pick the files. And so the little button right here says add LAS file. So I click on this, and I'm going to go to my projects, and I have a project as LAS merge example. And I've got two files here that we've named. And for right now, you can add them one at a time, or you can click and through normal window operations, either hit the shift or control to select the files and hit select files. And now what it's doing is it loading the LAS files and pops them up here in this menu. We still haven't merged anything yet. This gives us a little information about what's in the file. In the first file is listed. It's called well log somewhere in the world. Depth goes from 3,600 feet to a little over 14,000 feet at a step of 0.25 feet. It has no deviation data in there. And we can see that the next file does exactly the same thing as far as the depth range. So they're the same range, same depth. Now you have the ability to change the order of the files, and you do that by clicking the file you want, and you have the up or down button here. Okay, and the reason we do that is when we merge the file, the header that will go into the actual merged file is going to come from the first one, and the depth increment is going to be from the first one that's selected. So if you have different depth steps. Now let's say you had an example a little bit different from this one where the first one went from like 3,600 feet to 8,000 feet, and the second one went from 7,000 feet to 14,000 feet. Well, this will determine the extremes of the most shallow reading of depth in the LAS file and the deepest one. And then we'll use that depth step at the first file that's listed, and it will resample that data and create it into a single merged file. Now, sometimes we have a whole bunch of mnemonic curves in our LAS files, and we really don't want all of them to be in the merged data. Okay, so what we have is a button down here that says select the curves and merge. So I'm going to click on that, and you'll see over here, and if I had 5 files, each one would be its own column, and I'll scoot that over. So this is part 2 that we've listed first in our well log part 2. That's our first file. Sorry about that. And then our other one here. These are all the mnemonics that are in that file that we could include. Now let's say in the first one, I want every one of these. I don't want to lose any of these. And so I would just click the checkbox at the top that says check all the parameters, or if I click it again, it will uncheck all the parameters. Or I could check them independently. I say I just want this one, this one, this one. But for now, I'm going to say I want every one in there. And then for the second file over here, let's just say I want this gamma ray appears to be a gamma ray curve, and this is a caliper one probably, so we'll put it in there. And it doesn't matter if this mnemonic exists over here or not, and we'll touch on that in a second. So now what we're doing is we're taking this file, all the parameters in that, and only two of them on this file, and we're going to merge those into a single file. The alternative is editing LAS files, and that kind of gets ugly. So I hit the merge button, then I specify how many decimal places I want all my data to have, and I hit accept, and then I tell it where do I want this, and I'm going to go to my merged example, and I'm going to call this my well log somewhere merged, and hit the save, and it pops up and says it was just merged. Okay, so now what? We have this. So I'm going to close this. So now if I were to start a new project, I'm going to import an LAS file. That's the first thing we do. So I'm going to click this, and I'm going to go to the LAS merge example, and you see I have this well log somewhere merge. That's the one we just created. I'm going to double click that. Now it's going to read in the LAS file and have all of these curves. So this is everything from the one file with the other two properties merged in. Now we'll notice right here, and everything is fine. If I want to view the LAS file, it's all there and clean. But I have a parameter called gram underscore file underscore one. So this is where we had a conflict, because in the first LAS file there was a mnemonic called gram, and the second one there's also one called gram. So I appended this with an underscore file underscore one. So you at least know where it came from, and so you can see that it was merged. The other one that was a caliper one, I think that was calyx or whatever, that was just added in there into the LAS file. So now with this information, we can, start our modeling, identifying these curves, editing them, creating synthetics, all with a single merged LAS file.